Hey guys, it's your girl Sage. I hope you're having a wonderful day or night whenever this video finds you. I'm here with our daily bread, and for today we have Ezekiel chapter 48, Division of the Land. Now these are the names of the tribes. From the northern border along the road to Hethlon, at the entrance of Hamath to Hazar-Enan, the border of Damascus northward, in the direction of Hamath, there shall be one section for Dan, from its east to its west side. By the border of Dan, from the east side to the west, one section for Asher. By the border of Asher, from the east side to the west, one section for Naphtali. By the border of Naphtali, from the east side to the west, one section for Manasseh. By the border of Manasseh, from the east side to the west, one section for Ephraim. By the border of Ephraim, for the east side to the west, one section for Reuben. By the border of Reuben, from the east side to the west, one section for Judah. By the border of Judah, from the east side to the west, shall be the district which you shall set apart, 25,000 cubits in width, and in length the same as one of the other portions from the east side to the west, with the sanctuary in the center. The district that you shall set apart for the Lord shall be 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. To the priests, the holy district shall belong. On the north, 25,000 cubits in length, on the west, 10,000 in width, on the east, 10,000 in width, and on the south, 25,000 in length. The sanctuary of the Lord shall be in the center. It shall be for the priests of the sons of Zadok, who were sanctified, who kept my charge, who did not go astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. And this district of land that is set apart shall be to them a thing most holy by the border of the Levites. Opposite the border of the priests, the Levites shall have an area 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. Its entire length shall be 25,000 and its width 10,000. And they shall not sell or exchange any of it. They may not alienate this best part of the land, for it is holy to the Lord. The 5,000 cubits in width that remain along the edge of the 25,000 shall be for general use by the city, for dwellings and common land, and the city shall be in the center. These shall be its measurements: the north side 4,500 cubits, the south side 4,500, and the east side 4,500, and the west side 4,500. The common land of the city shall be to the north 250 cubits, and to the south 250, to the east 250, and to the west 250. The rest of the length alongside the district of the holy section shall be 10,000 cubits to the east and 10,000 to the west. It shall be adjacent to the district of the holy section, and its produce shall be food for the workers of the city. The workers of the city from all the tribes of Israel shall cultivate it. The entire district shall be 25,000 cubits by 25,000 cubits 4 square. You shall set apart the holy district with the property of the city. The rest shall belong to the prince, on one side and on the other of the holy district and of the city's property, next to the 25,000 cubits of the holy district, as far as the eastern border, and westward next to the 25,000 as far as the western border, adjacent to the tribal portions. It shall belong to the prince. It shall be the holy district, and the sanctuary of the temple shall be in the center. Moreover, apart from the possession of the Levites and the possession of the city which are in the midst of what belongs to the prince, the area between the border of Judah and the border of Benjamin shall belong to the prince. As for the rest of the tribes, from the east side to the west, Benjamin shall have one section. By the border of Benjamin, from the east side to the west, Simon shall have one section. By the border of Simon, from the east side to the west, Issachar shall have one section. By the border of Issachar, From the east side to the west, Zebulun shall have one section. By the border of Zebulun, from the east side to the west, Gad shall have one section. By the border of Gad, on the south side, toward the south from the border, shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh along the brook to the great sea. This is the land which you shall divide by lot as inheritance among the tribes of Israel, and these are their portion, says the Lord God. The gates of the city and its name. These are the exits of the city. On the north side, measuring 4,500 cubits, the gates of the city shall be named after the tribes of Israel. The 3 gates northward, 1 gate for Reuben, 1 gate for Judah, and 1 gate for Levi. On the east side, 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Joseph, 1 gate for Benjamin, and 1 gate for Dan. On the south side, measuring 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Simon, 1 gate for Issachar, and 1 gate for Zebulun. On the west side, 4,500 cubits with their 3 gates, 1 gate for Gad, 1 gate for Asher, and 1 gate for Naphtali. All the way around shall be 18,000 cubits, and the name of the city from that day shall be, the Lord is there. And there's also a translation here that reads, Yahweh Shammah, which reminds me of all the fun different nicknames that the Lord has, whether, and this applies whether you refer to the Lord as Jehovah or as Yahweh, but you've got Jehovah Jireh, you've got Yahweh Shammah, you've got Elohim, Adonai, and I know that Adonai actually just translates to, I believe it's just to God. I know Jehovah translates to God, but I know Adonai is also another term of endearment for the Lord. And it's very similar to how when we perhaps address our parents, we don't refer to them by their first name because that would be disrespectful. We call them either mom, dad, father, mother, papa, mama, pa, ma, that term of endearment. And that's more what is carry when we refer to the Lord in that way, or even the Lord, again, which is his title, or just God. I just wanted to mention that because I feel like someone needed to hear that, but let's go ahead and talk about this chapter. So this chapter was a little bit, it was very reminiscent to the earlier times, way back in the Old Testament. I want to say like book of Leviticus, kind of, where the Lord is going over the commands that he wants his people to follow. And then also in the book of Numbers too, where the Lord is kind of describing how he wants his temple to be built. And this is kind of giving me the same impression of that, especially because the Lord is commanding the prophet Ezekiel to instruct the people on how they are to divide the land and live accordingly in the land that the Lord had promised their fathers. And reading that too, it kind of reminded me that, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And his anger lasts a moment, but his anger lasts a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Because, the Lord even addresses right here in Ezekiel chapter 48, verse 11 right here. It shall be for the priests of the sons of Zadok who are sanctified, who have kept my charge, who did not go astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. So right there, the Lord, we see a reminiscent that the Lord is very aware that his children had disobeyed his commands, that, after he made them his people, they didn't follow his commands, they acted in very wicked ways, and the Lord has had to send afflictions, punishment, and trials and tribulations to them to teach them of their wickedness and to also teach them the fear of the Lord as well. Because it's so easy that sometimes, we get very comfortable that we tend to forget everything that the Lord has done for us, which reminds me that, when I fed them, they ate, they were satisfied. When they were satisfied, they became proud. When they became proud, they forgot me. And so the Lord has had to send afflictions and really some desolate situations to kind of remind them of who he is. And we actually see a very condensed version of this in the book of Judges, but we're all the way in the book of Ezekiel now, where we've kind of gone through a bit of the exile that the Israelites have faced, being exiled into Babylon. So they've already kind of gone through it a little bit. And the Lord remembers this. Yet, because the Lord is a promise keeper, he's still upholding his promise that he promised to their fathers, all the sons of Joseph. You know, he's keeping this promise because that's who he is. It's not because of anything that they've done. It's simply because of who the Lord is. And the same could be said about a lot of the blessings that we receive from the Lord as well. That, you know, it's not because of our good works. It's not because of how hard we're working. It's not because of how many tears we've cried, or it's not because of anything that we did per se, but it's really because of who the Lord is. And the Lord is good. He is a promise keeper. Not one of his promises has ever failed. You know, everything he speaks will happen. There's been examples in the Bible. One of my favorites, when I think about, you know, remembering that God is in control of all things, I like to think about way back in, I think it's Second Kings, where Ahab, he's trying to escape death by pretending to be somebody else and having someone pretending to be him. And he still dies the exact same way that the Lord said he was going to die. And that he was going to have his blood licked up by dogs or something like that. Like, he takes an arrow and, like, has his blood licked up by dogs. A very dishonorable death. So a friendly reminder that the Lord is in control of all things. But also, it's a reminder, too, that because the Lord is a promise keeper and, you know, he sends good days, he sends bad days. And we have to remember that both come from the Lord so that none of us can predict our future. But that's why it's so important for us to have a close relationship with the Lord, so we can hear him when he's guiding us towards certain things, like when he's guiding us towards our promised land. Or we can also hear him when he's trying to warn us in the same way that he sent prophets to his people to warn them to repent of their wickedness. This is why it's so important to have that relationship with him, because everything from the Lord is good, you know. And even if the Lord sends bad days, we have to remember that those bad days could sometimes be because of things that we've done, or it could also be preparing us and shaping our character, sharpening who we are for the blessings that the Lord has in store for us. And so we don't fumble those blessings as well. And I say that because, you know, the Lord, he's restoring the land for all of the tribes of Israel despite their wickedness, again, because of who he is. But at the same time, he had already given them this land before, but they fumbled the bag because they, you know, way back in the book of Deuteronomy, the Lord warns them and commands them to not follow the other gods that the locals of that land at that time are following, for they would be led astray. And that's exactly what they do. It's kind of like when somebody tells you, don't press that button, and then they go and press the button. That's exactly what happened here. But nonetheless, because of who the Lord is, he is compassionate. He's slow to anger. He's patient with us. You know, he's abounding in love. He is merciful. And you know, it's about who he is, not about us. And that's why it's so important that we remember that, you know, our lives here, we are simply like the grass and the wildflowers. Our lives here are so short, and that's why the Lord has compassion on us, because he knows our lives are short. He knows that we are going to endure death as compared to him, where his name literally translates to I am, but he's also I was, I am, I'm becoming. He is the beginning, the end. He is the Alpha, the Omega. He is everything, and he does not have death. He just is. And will always be. But us, on the other hand, we're mortal, we're feeble, we get sick, we get discouraged, we get injured, we have all these things happen to us, and the Lord's compassionate upon that. So he takes pity upon his people, just much like a father takes pity upon their child when their child falls and messes up, you know, because again, the father knows better, but the child doesn't. And that's why it's so important for us to not only to have that relationship with the Lord so he can guide us in what we need to do to get to the promised land, but also to hear the warnings from him, but also to have that relationship with him too, so we can know his great love for us, so we can know, how he feels about us and trust in when he speaks to us. Trust that he says things for our good. Again, whether he's saying something that we really want to hear or whether he's telling us something that we don't want to hear that convicts us in the spirit. We have to remember that everything from the Lord is good. So nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here. But I am praying that this message blessed someone. And if it did, feel free to like, subscribe, and until next time, I hope all of y'all take care. Bye-bye!